Can we have a warm round of applause? Please help me welcome on stage Professor B.K. Chakravarty, Head Industrial Design Center, IIT Mumbai. Welcome, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker for the session, he's someone who has joined REVA electric car company in the year 2008 and has ever since spearheaded the E2O design and is currently the head of styling studio at Mahindra REVA Electric Vehicles Private Limited, and he comes with more than 15 years of experience in automotive design. Please help me welcome on stage Mr. Giridher Katta. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to our next speaker. He, in fact, has till date successfully designed and also launched over 650 products in the Indian and international markets for a host of clients ranging from the small-scale sector to the heavy industry sector. Can we have a huge round of applause for the Head of Product Design, Design Directions, Mr. Satish Gokhale. Moving on to our next speaker for this wonderful afternoon. In fact, for over half a decade, he has led and grew the UX practice at Adobe India, covering a diverse spectrum of Adobe products as well as digital platforms. In fact, in his new role, his design team will be responsible for creating the next-gen experiences across Flipkart's multiple consumer-facing digital touchpoints. Let's have a warm round of applause for Mr. Dutta. Our next speaker for the session comes with over 28 years of diverse industrial and academic experience, having worked in Titan, Tanishq, Crompton Greaves, and was also the Professor of Design at IICD and JSSATE, besides design consulting. Please help me welcome on stage the Director of Technology and Operations, Imaginarium India, Mr. Guru Prasad Rao. Well, this morning we were also enriched with his wonderful prospectus, and it's time to welcome him back on the stage. Can we have a round of applause one more time for Mr. Michael Foley, the founder of Foley Design. Another very enriching session in store for all of you. This is our final session, but on that note, we're going to have a very enthusiastic set of perspectives. I'm going to hand over the proceedings to our moderator and speaker for the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you, and hope you had a very sumptuous meal. We are very excited with this panel because we're all good friends and we met each other before. And we also realized that this is after lunch, so we need to have a lot of interaction with all of you people. So if that is possible with this new world where you need to really know what the user wants, and we've all been saying that design is all about finding out the unmet user needs and coming up with creative solutions to satisfy this need using technology. So with that basic issue and premise of the industrial design discipline, where we say that we want to use high technology industrial solutions to come and satisfy a large number of people. That's a major difference between what you do with crafts when you have one-to-one and what you do with industrial design when you want to satisfy a large number of people and with products and services. So here we have a very, very sort of eminent panel. I myself am very excited. Actually, I keep telling all my panelists that I am excited to meet all of you, and very glad to be in this role of introducing all of them and taking us into this new realm of understanding what will be design in the future. I think we all had some discussions in the morning, and we realized that this discipline is not sort of looking at design as something which is unique or something which is which only relates to a few people. Design is all pervading. Design is encompassing all spheres of technology and life. So if that is the situation, what are we designers? Some of us who are designers, some of us who have passion for design. So what are we making that difference? What is the difference which we are looking at? Why are some people getting professional designers and some people are just supporting design? So these are very important challenges which we will see and we will check how we can go about. So in mind, so we'll start with our basic introductions. I will basically request our team members, and while we start introducing ourselves, we'll also talk about the whole challenges that confront design today and how would this challenge be in the future 2020? How will you, transform this into the future? So we'll start our discussions with basically Giridher. So Giridher, if you can, quickly introduce yourself and sort of tell us, about your journey and the way you look at design today and what it stands for and the challenges which come in will be.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for coming here. I just want to give a quick recap on my journey into the world of design, and I will start from the point where I graduated from NID, and it was a fair amount of time where the focus wasn't there, where what would we do as industrial designers, because the industry was a little nascent in terms of accepting designers into the mainstream activity. It was a little bit of struggle. We struggled through. We worked in multiple areas, starting from special effects to movie industry. But eventually, I realized that the orientation of my knowledge base and my background is more automotive. And slowly, I migrated into doing aircraft seating and automotive design. So I'm glad that one of our panelists was from Boeing, and I could really understand what he was saying, because I worked in the aircraft industry, working on aircraft seats for Boeing. That too. So I understand the roles. Now, what I wanted to say is the situation is not the same, and it has improved dramatically from what we started in our times, during our times. I feel the opportunities are phenomenal. The exposure that is available to the students today is phenomenal. The internet and the media is opened up a gamut of opportunities to the present generation, and it's actually great to know that students are now at an early age able to focus themselves that they want to do graphic or apparel or accessory. It's actually nice to know that at a very early age people are focused, and which is good. It allows the parents and the supporting elements to organize themselves to prepare the kids for moving forward too. On my part of the journey, I would also like to say that when I joined Mahindra REVA, I was earlier with General Motors Design in Bangalore. I set up the studio there. Setting up General Motors Design Studio was a hell of a task, because while we were working for the global audience, the requirement of the skill set was local, absolutely local. Whereas this would not mean local in any terms by the standard, but in terms of the facility, it was an international level studio. We had all the setup and the software and the hardware required to run the studio. While I was a GM, we did several projects, and post that I joined Mahindra REVA. One of the biggest reasons for joining Mahindra REVA was the cause and effect part of it. I'll probably talk about it a little later. I've been very much inspired by my boss, who was Chetan Meni, who was here, and he was responsible for setting up the EV architecture for the vehicles and also the electric vehicle platforms for the country. And he's been a panelist in SIAM and also in the National Commission for Electric Mobility, NMEM, and he's a chairperson for that. And it allows us to think a little bit beyond the product. I don't want to go much about the product details, but what I want to explain is more in terms of what a product can do to change the life right now and the system that works around it. All the while, before I joined, it was only a car. It was just a REVA. Now it's a mobility system. Mobility system, just mobility solution, opens up a gamut of opportunities for designers to work. So we migrated from just being a car maker to a mobility systems provider.
Wonderful. So that's excellent, Giridhar. We'll also look at the challenge which you are saying is moving from a product to a total solution. So that's wonderful. I'd like to request Satish to also tell us the one challenge and the type of and a little introduction.
Yeah, hi. I started my career with a company called Bajaj Auto Limited way back in 1985. Started the design department, the styling department. So as any young graduate, I was always interested in automobile, but I kept a cap saying that I'm joining Bajaj Auto for a very specific reason, to learn how businesses are conducted, how companies actually perform, how companies actually think. And frankly, in 85, nobody wanted design. So we took up a challenge and we converted that. If you remember, there used to be a front engine rickshaw to a rear engine rickshaw. So the whole objective was to give comfort to the rider, who's the driver, because he is sitting in the vehicle for 8 hours, whereas we as passengers never spend more than 20 minutes those days. A clear target was not more than 4 years with Bajaj Auto. So in 1988, I started design directions with a specific goal that, as designers, I didn't want to restrict myself into a single stream. As a company, as our company's DNA is to cross-pollinate in technologies. So today, my automotive experience working with Bajaj, we may be using it in packaging, we may be using it in medical devices, who knows. So 88 when we started, frankly for a year and a half, there was absolutely no work. I survived because my wife is also a designer and communication design is easy. So, money was coming in, but no product design jobs. Finally got a break into a machine tool. We didn't know what machine tools were till then, literally. And our client actually called us because I had changed the graphics of the Kawasaki bike. I don't know if you remember Kawasaki RTZ. So I just changed the graphics and our sales shot up by 18% in 2 months. So we had actually fooled the customers, the bike was the same. So my client from Coimbatore called up saying that, can you add stickers so my machine looks different from the German or the Swiss or the Japanese machines? I frankly, a very selfish motive was to get a good project. So I told my client, just changing or adding graphics is not going to change your product. Let's relook at the whole concept of the whole machine. And the machine which we are looking at is 108-year-old technology. Nobody had done any changes. And my client, being a non-engineering graduate, gave it as a challenge saying that, okay, I give you 1 year, try and do whatever you want, this is the budget. Obviously the budget was not enough, but we said, let's start. And we managed to do a breakthrough project. Today is the highest selling machine in the world. And that's when my journey in machine tool started. Machine tool industry is always up and down. It all is based on automotive industry. Automotive goes down, machine tool industry also goes down. So typically in 94, machine tool industry went down. In the meantime, we had completed over 30, 35 different machine tools for various clients. We got a name and recognition into industrial design for machine tools. Luckily, we got a breakthrough in a medical project in 94, and that's when our journey in medical domain started. So we do a lot of work in a variety of projects. So I believe that design is all about creating a better product for the user, be it a medical product or a capital equipment that's a machine tool or an automobile, is a user has to be comfortable using the product. So on one side, we've developed medical products to save someone's life. Frankly, we've also completed projects and products to take someone's life. We've completed revolvers and carbines. So design is all about creating a better working environment as well as a better product for the user. So today, one of our products will be competing with AK-47 kind of projects. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
so we are now.
Really sort of challenging that it's also contradicting some of the.
No, it's design, but
in design.
Anyway, Jawan should get the josh to fire out of your gun. He should get the confidence that I'm shooting at the right target.
Very true.
That's design.
Yeah. So, Dutta, maybe very quick introduction and a little bit of. So, the one challenge which Satish is saying that you have to make the users delight, which is the critical thing in design, taking the inside out of the product. Jay, please.
Okay, so very briefly about myself, I think I have been trained as a typographer and type designer. I haven't created a typeface. I slowly moved increasingly into user experience design, digital design, and so on and so forth. I've worked in a number of different organizations, whether leading things or making things, helping banks go from bricks and mortars to online world of transactions, living the brand through online experiences. So I think it's a whole bunch of things. Most of my working life I spent in the UK, including running my own company. Came back with, I was with Adobe for a long time, and now Flipkart, which is an interesting and chaotic challenge in terms of how do you make sense of it all. So it's all part of the day job kind of thing. It's interesting. The challenge really for an area that I work in is constant fear of disruption. And disruption, I think there is one challenge of time that you don't know. Tomorrow an 18-year-old sitting in his garage may disrupt what you are doing. Your business is nothing to do with experience. And when I hear about a lot of experience and the collective experience of this wonderful kind of organizations or the team here, you know that you are not in safe territory actually, because 20-year-old, if you look at the Bansals, they were probably very young when they started. They were probably much younger than I am, kind of. And they have built something very, very large. And it's the guts they had to do it. And the young people have more guts probably than the experienced older guys. We have our EMIs probably more than the guts. So yeah, it's one of those things. The other ones, I think I love this quote by Winnie the Pooh. And I'm sorry to be talking about Winnie the Pooh in the middle of this design audience. But Winnie the Pooh talks about the future isn't what it used to be. And that's exactly where we are. The future isn't what you anticipate it's going to be. It's going to be a disruption, and you better be ready for that. And that's our world, because technology will come across tomorrow, and it will completely things in a big way. I've had the pleasure of working with a wonderful mentor, a guy who actually launched the Apple Watch. So he was with me. He was my boss at Adobe. Kevin Lynch, and Kevin Lynch later launched the Apple Watch more recently. His vision was that everything will become integrated. Hardware and software, design and engineering, left brain and right brain. And in a way, the Apple Watch you see is an expression of where he wants to see the world going. I think many of you talked about IoT. That's another interesting phase. I think suddenly the arbitrators will actually have a lot of power. It's not what essentially you are doing, but the guys who are arbitrating the information between X and Y, kind of. So there is a whole bunch of things. I think the only way that you can survive in this very interesting, challenging environment is to be very, very curious and very, very childlike. Don't let the experience sit on your shoulders. Don't let it make you have a false sense of security. You have to be very childlike. You have to be constantly sort of asking yourself, where will the next disruptor come from? And again, if you think of Blockbuster versus Netflix, for instance, again, great example of disruption. Don't assume that the money which has been sunk in may actually sort of do you well. It will not. Someone will have a better idea out there. This is the world. I think this is an interesting challenge. The other challenge is probably organization design. And this is what we don't talk about a lot. Interestingly, I did a master's in design management because I wanted to understand how does strategy kind of play a role in what designers do. And that's the part of it. Sometimes organizations become so bloated, so leveled, so layered, that they are not able to sort of move very quickly. They become like dinosaurs, bigger and bigger, the less agile they become, kind of. So that's another thing to guard against. And having worked in large organizations, I know this can always be a challenge, and that's the whole idea. How do we counter those challenges?
Very good, thanks. Michael, you could tell us.
Yeah, I think challenges across my career, there's been one that's always been consistent right through, which is the whole idea of how do you shorten your learning curve, and as in a consulting space, you move from one category which is diametrically opposite to the other. And that, I think, is the biggest challenge, which is an ongoing challenge. It's probably there for as long as we run consulting. And how do we create practices and processes that reduce that learning curve, and therefore you're seen as an expert. And there are a lot of interesting processes which are not really rocket science around this, but how do you bring in experts at the right time and shorten that whole sense of what you perceive of a category which is completely new to you. You might not have done any work in that space. And I think that's probably been one that stemmed through. The second, I think, is the whole idea of designers being able to communicate to, because you don't produce anything yourself. And I think the big challenge is how do you convince somebody else who's a manufacturer, somebody on the lathe, somebody who doesn't see your vision explicitly. And I think what has worked very well in the past is to be able to actually work hands-on on things and work collaboratively with the extended fraternity that actually translates design. I think that's something that probably is the way for the future in terms of design processes as well.
You touched upon a very, very important aspect of how you collaborate with manufacturers and show them the right sort of empathy to take things forward. Prasad, we'd like to hear from you about the challenges in the service industry. Now that you moved to the service area of design, you're servicing the design community. by way of,
Thank you, Professor. And I think we have a very eminent group here already, all known people. I'm very comfortable. Professor, whom I pursue my research at the same department. And it is a little challenging for me that way. But coming to the design challenge, I think my own journey of design has been a very nice one. It was a dream to design something, and it started, I think, very fairly early in life as a mischievous child. Opening the clocks and radios and not able to fix it, getting beatings for that. We are very mischievous. So designing comes actually from this playful, thing. What comes later is creation. So it is like a breaking and then making things. So for me, it is wonderful. I happened to study engineering. Later on, I was teaching painting at Balbhavan and joined Titan. Titan was a very design-driven company, and I had good fortune of interacting with Mike, his brother, and lot of others. And we moved on to a new industry called Tanishq, which was a transition. I was one of the early members of the pilot plant, which opened up horizons with interactions with international designers. The way they designed, my job was to convert it. Mike and me, we used to interact. Neil and various others, they used to have. We used to have Lorna Watson, who was our first designer at Tanishq. So we had a very intimate, everyday interaction, and so I became from a tool designer to a product designer slowly. Picked up few awards, so I said, okay, I should get a ticket. That's when I went to IISc to study design, though I very much wanted to come to IDC, but today I am pursuing my research at IDC. In Tanishq, actually in '93, somebody went to Inargenta fair, brought a piece made up of 3D printing, developed by 3D printing. They said, Guru Prasad, just evaluate, can we use this? I said, no, it cannot be done because it has got so many staircase effect, the layers. And if I give it to any karigar to shape it and do, he will throw it at me and say, you do it. The layer thickness that time was about 800 microns, 0.8. And it was like a design by itself, it is not a finger ring, it was a finger ring which is made up of lot of steps. I said, why don't we use it as it is? No, they said, no, this is supposed to be design and this is what you have to do. Much later, I don't know, people say destiny. I went to IISc, I started operating their FDM mission for almost 3 years when I was in campus. Joined Crompton Greaves as design head after a small stint as a faculty at the CEDT Bangalore, NIFT Bangalore, and doing odd jobs as freelancer. Lot of projects, very less earnings, and I joined the CG Global R&D's Design Center. So I had a legacy department to head, lot of draftsmen who did nothing about design, and engineers who never believed, they thought whatever electrical engineering, star delta transformations are design for them. So they used to tell me, okay Guru Prasad, you're the designer, this box you should not touch here, here you cannot touch, top it has to be red, bottom it has to be grey, and you don't touch here, okay, this is the interface, don't touch, okay. So, well, I was fully given a very good design brief to work with, that's how. And I did lot of design work. What I did was to shoot a corporate film for Crompton Greaves into third month of my service, and later on landscaping, and they had beautiful buildings coming up. They said, what colors will you suggest? That's how it has to go, and it was a design house within the campus. It's like a captive design house, So my clients were the internal SBUs we had to give. Very nice, isn't it? And so it was a greatest challenge. I could succeed in building a wonderful world-class design center there, and added a lot of designers from design schools, because the process is very important. So there is a big challenge how to define engineer to design. Dictionary meaning is same, to engineer and to design. First few years went on to actually make what is design, teaching people, converting them, getting to know. Okay, later on, I think we had a very wonderful journey. In fact, CG had more than 150 design registrations, or more than 300, I think, with all the, and we had a lot of patents also. And we had a first D meet. I think Satish was there, part of it. Professor Chakravarty was there. So it was like a challenge, It was conducted in a big hotel Renaissance, where we had that.
Yeah.
You remember, Satish?
Yeah.
So it was a journey. I think today, looking back, I should say it's really wonderful. Today we enable, as India's largest service bureau with 3D printing, we make people realize the ideas into ideas you can hold in hand. The fragile ideas you can hold in hand, and lot of startups come. We also help save lives through medical models, implants, and today I think we have more than 30 different verticals we work with. You name it, we work for it. And it's like, if you can think it, we can make it. That's what we say.
Thank you, Guru Prasad. Thank you very much for that introduction. We thought we'll just share, where we come from. So when we discuss our projects and our, endeavors and the next challenging questions we take, and we are very clear with the time. We said we're going to give half an hour to you and half an hour to us. So we're going to straight away stop after we, start this process. I'll quickly introduce why it is so critical to have confluence of all disciplines to come up with an innovative product. So here, for example, I myself am a mechanical engineer. Then I went to design school at IIT Bombay, IDC, where I'm presently the head. And after my design, I joined Larsen & Toubro. In Larsen & Toubro, I worked for 6 years, and I produced one of the largest selling petrol pumps in the country. So then I realized, wow, there's a methodology which I learned in the design school, which applied directly onto the company. Go and talk to the workers, find out the problems over there. Go and talk to the users, find the problems over there. Come back and create solutions. Use technology. Look at the synergy of the company. If Larsen & Toubro is big, don't work like a small firm. Work for a big firm. Have more investments. So all this learning put together, I said, wow, I need to teach. So I went back to IIT Delhi saying that I like to teach. They started a new program. And they were about to throw me out in 2 years' time. They said that you don't have a PhD. I said, what is this PhD? We are action research, we do projects. And then we, very interestingly, then I said, if I do PhD, I'll do it in management. So here I'm a mechanical engineer, did Master of Design, and then I did management in PhD, and it took me 9 years. Because I said I'm going to do PhD by actually designing innovative products, and then synthesizing that to come up with a collaborative innovation model, which everybody can use. So here we are, then the whole journey, then I moved to IDC. But why I'm saying all this is that you need this whole merging of disciplines, removing the silos very badly, and designers also are specialists, like one of my colleagues was saying here, that if these specializations are there, we also have to have people who actually break these specializations and work across these fields. So we need collaborators into the field. So new disciplines are coming in design, and with that, we'll be able to see much larger domain of innovation products coming out. So here we'll quickly run to some, I think we left in another 5 minutes, sorry, but we have 1 minute or 2 minutes for each of us to address this important pointed questions. Michael Foley, how do you think collaboration, will play a great impact in design for the future?
I think broadly put, a designer's role from being insular and creating everything themselves, then gets scaled up to a role where he or she orchestrates innovation. And in that space, you open up your creative sensibilities to a larger set of people, and they don't have to be designers.
Wonderful.
And that's probably where collaboration works very well. I think collaboration has been spoken about to death, but I think the whole thing is it's either very successful or very unsuccessful, depending on how it's choreographed. And if you don't have a vision and collaboration, it can just crumble down. So whether it's, just to give you a very small example, on the Commonwealth Games baton, we used the army to collect the soil, to create the batten. And we would not have been able to do this as a design studio. And we've got about 8-9 different organizations, very small to large scale organizations, has really helped us kind of bring that together. And we played the role of conceptualizing it, but at the end of it, what was manifested was a process that was put together by a lot of expertise that we don't have. And that's probably the future of where design is going to go. It's going to be orchestration of innovation.
That's very true. Without that type of orchestration, with that type of all-pervading collaboration, it's very difficult to go forward. We have, Jairi, if you will tell us, leveraging technology for user-centered design. How do you think this would be our future?
This is already happening in many ways, kind of thing. So we are. Okay, so here's some collaboration in action. So we are using this in many ways. I think we are already doing, technology is being used to do 2-3 things. One is, of course, to fast track or test hypothesis. And this is probably very, very relevant in case of companies which are in web, apps, sphere, technology companies essentially, kind of thing. Having said that, if you look at what Imaginarium is doing in terms of product design, also you can actually fast forward a lot of those. You kind of essentially testing and validating hypothesis. You are measuring a whole bunch of things. It's possible now for you to do like A/B testing, kind of see why people are kind of going for A versus B or even C for that matter. Having said that, you can collect a whole lot of data which will actually give you some sort of validation. It will give you, but it doesn't really predict the future. It just tells you why people are doing it tells you people are doing certain things. It doesn't necessarily tell you why they are doing certain things, and you can dig deeper and deeper. I think it's very important to then put in that human effort of asking those questions. Are we firstly testing the right data? That's a very, very important question to ask. And if we are, then are we instrumenting whatever we are testing to be able to collect data across all the user points? Are we understanding the flows? Then kind of are we validating it to the users? Kind of what data shows us versus what other forms of research shows us. Are they actually matching, or is there a mismatch? And sometimes in that mismatch lies great discoveries and great insights, kind of thing. We want insights as opposed to data. I think data is great, but insights is what makes things happen. And that's where technology can help a lot. Essentially, it can, in this era where things are going fast, you can make it faster. You can test your hypothesis, prove yourselves wrong, and kind of get on with things much faster. So I think that's probably where technology can help a lot.
In fact, one initiative we've taken at the design school is that, like 5 years back, students were just making mock-up models. Today, we are saying that you need to actually deploy and become entrepreneurs in the field. You have to come up with solutions which are workable, and then only you graduate from school. And technology is giving us that possibility today because of the internet, because of fast manufacturing, because of rapid prototyping, because of fast tooling, and that is the future which we're looking at. Giridher, we'd like to hear from you on how the paradigm shift for the future, design to design innovation. We just have 1 minute.
It's difficult to explain it in terms of theory, but I can take up a practical example which people will be able to relate to why design needs to move to the next level. I just want the audience to tell me how many of you have parked your cars outside. Can you just raise your hands? Any of you have parked your cars outside?
Or come in taxis?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have come from other cities. Just imagine if your wife calls you or your kids call you and say that, I have something inside the car, I need it now. What do you do today? What do? You have the keys with you in your pocket. So design is making the functional aspect, making the product. But design innovation is taking it to the next level. So today we are having an app which can allow you to unlock the car from anywhere in the world. That's the first point I want to say. So it can simplify the way you look at a product. It will completely change the dimension of the product. Second important aspect, looking at India as a country, how design can be systematically looked at to do a paradigm shift. One of the biggest challenges when we made an electric car is people laughed at us and said that, what are you guys doing? There is no power in the country. There's so many places where there's no electricity. So we designed a system with a small unit which you can put it on top of your house, which can power your car for the next 30 years. It could be the remotest part of India. India has got plenty of sunlight all across most of the country. So there is really no requirement for a power, electricity. So we need to create opportunities out of the limitations that we have and shift the problem to a different dimension. If we sit on it, we will be sitting on it for a longer time. We need to step out of the problem and look at it from a different perspective. So I hope these two examples will tell you how a design can be taken into a paradigm shift by doing design thinking differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Giridher. Guru Prasad, you already talked about in detail how the design support services will actually aid designers, and what type of new services and systems could come in to support design in the future.
I think today a lot of new technologies are coming. We have at Imaginarium almost all technologies. It will I think no one particular technology can answer your needs, because designers are always trying to solve clients' problems, or they do a research and say, okay, this is the need, so there is a need to fill that gap. So they come out with, if you take a bottle needs, the body has to be transparent, or it could be even opaque, depending on what exactly you are pitching at. So if your system doesn't allow you to print transparent, then it is not okay. So in a way I can say, in future, you can print soft, you can print transparent, you can print opaque, you can print in any color, and in metallic colors also, in gold, silver, brass, aluminum, steel, titanium, to save lives. So a whole lot of new materials are going to come. Polyethylene ethane ketone, PEEK, has been a plastic we used to use in CG as a insulator nut and bolt. They used to actually load it on lathe and turn it. But today the PEEK powder can be sintered to make stuff designers cannot imagine to produce. Like you have body scaffolds which are very organic shape. It cannot be made by injection molding. So those things are coming, and I think it's going to be a wonderful, as I see, you think it and you can make it kind of thing, and you make one or you make 100, you can make it. So that's the whole thing.
Thank you.
I can add.
Satish, finally the most important aspect of the future, which is how do you see humanizing technology as a focus for the design future?
Interesting. What I believe is, there's a legacy saying that certain products cost so much. We always, when a client comes to us, we've always questioned saying that why should it cost so much? For example, let's take a case of a medical device. I'll just narrate an example. A client walks into our office in 1998 saying that we want you to develop an asthma inhaler. We thought it's just pressing something and inhaling something. Not realizing, but a product like this can take something like 13 years to develop. So we believe that design has to go far more skin deep, right to the technology, and challenge each and every person on the way, whether it's a chemical engineer, whether it's a pharmacist, whether it's a polymer person, whether it's a filling person who's going to fill the device. So we realize that it is far more important not to take anything on face value and challenge the prior art. If something was done this way, can we do it the other way around? And find out something which works better from the manufacturer's point of view, from the client's point of view who's going to actually sell the product, and the user's point of view. User's point of view would be, it has to be effective for him. So if he's taking one puff, it has to be more efficient, the efficacy has to be higher. The cost also has to be lower. So that's why we have our own design process, which is called SIDB, which is called Solution Independent Design Brief, where we challenge the prior art today. And the client just defines this is the aim, and how to do it is what we've actually do it in our process here. So in the whole process, we competed with all the global giants. I don't want to name them, but you know all of them. And the world's best device had 30% efficiency. So whatever you inhale, only 30% of the drug reaches the lungs or the alveoli, which dilates the capillaries, and that's how your wheezing and asthmatic reduces. We started with the premise saying that let's target 50%. I mean, a small company not knowing what drug delivery is all about, and we took it as a challenge, and today we have the world's best device, which is 59%. So what happens is from 30% we've reached 59%. When you're inhaling, only 30% is going inside, the 70% you're making expensive urine. You're also loading your kidneys. You know, there are a lot of side effects of drugs. So in a process, what has happened is somebody's dose is 500 milligrams. Today, my client's dose would be only 250 because the efficiency is better. And the cost is half. So if a global competition or any Indian product is, let's say, about 1300 rupees, today maximum dose is 610 rupees. So what I believe is you can actually give the right kind of product at the right cost to anybody. And that just happens by cross-pollinating technologies. Our entire device works on how bullets get fired. On one side, we're working on carbines, as I said, revolvers. So we've actually studied how bullets. So basically what we're doing, you're targeting. A bullet spins and goes, right? So that's when the perfect target or the linear alignment is taking place. That's how we've actually used it in a drug delivery device. So I believe that look at things from a different perspective and you can actually come up with a radically different product. And it has to be a winner for your client and for the end user, and as well as for the design company.
Very well said, Satish. Actually, it's very interesting that when you use technology for the benefit of the human, like how can you bring in these? It becomes low cost. It becomes very, very useful. And we've been looking at frugal innovation a lot at IIT Bombay, where we could come up with products which earlier would cost 10 to 20 times the existing rates. So it's very nice that within companies, for example, when I was working in L&T, my boss would say, the next product should be at least 25% cheaper. But now the next product has to be 1/10 the cost of the present product. So that's how we need to start looking at markets and products in the future, and technology is the best supporter for these activities. So with this, we would like to open. We just had some interesting pointers here. We would like to sort of open the question answer session. So please throw us some questions so that we can have more interactive session from here. We have another 20 minutes left, so we will be very glad to answer. You can also pinpoint to the panelists the questions you want. Can we have the mic, please?
Mic is there.
No, they are
audience. That mic.
That mic. There.
So, they're saying that 3D printers are getting cheaper and cheaper every day, and since the panel is about designing for the future, so they said that 3D printers can now print other 3D printers. It does its own job and makes a Terminator sort of a thing. According to you, in the next, say, 5 more years for 2020 to happen, how do you see designers designing in the next 5 years? Like, what would be different from what is happening today? Going to the vendor and saying, "Theek hai, jugaad kar do, Fevikwik laga do," to actually creating something that is just made for that one particular purpose. So that's the question.
Can I answer your question?
Please.
Okay, I'll take it after him. Yeah.
It's on your behalf, but I would like to answer the question. I'm not talking about future. I'm very practical. I want to talk about today and 4 years behind what we have been doing. One of the most important part of automobile design is when you put a part through certification, validation and testing, parts often fail, and there are failures. Some efficiency has to be improved somewhere, the air conditioning vent has to be somewhere. And you also, while you evaluate your buck, we call it entry buck, your ergonomic aspects are not right, your handle needs to be somewhere else, your vision cone is cutting through. There are a lot of small details that come through. the RPT aspect, which is the rapid prototyping aspect, has developed so much in advance that today we really, the cost of making it is, when they say it's cheaper, I do not believe the fact that the cost of the material and the machine is cheaper. No. But what happens after that also should be included in the cost. Today, earlier processes had rapid prototypes which were simple objects. You had to then cast them and make them into parts, then make them usable, and they would just break off because they are not forged parts and things like that. But today's rapid prototypes are direct usable parts. You could actually put the part and actually do a crash test on the part. You could actually print an airbag, snap it in place and do a crash test. Imagine you're in Germany sitting with a 3-day appointment with some crash testing center, and you really need that one snap to change in one place. Do you think you have the time to come back to India, get a part done and go back? No. These technologies are actually enabling designers to do small changes. I'll tell you a very simple example. A simple example like a logo on a steering wheel. When the airbag deploys, the logo chips off and falls. It becomes bullets to you when the airbag gets deployed. How differently you can design the same logo can be done like that in a new way. And that you can see it while you're sitting at Spain, and all I need is a CAD file. So my boys do it, I print it there and I use it. So this completely changes the speed with which you deliver your operational time, and that's why it is cheaper for us. So
okay, I think that's largely what is important things I have just told. But the thing is, the cost, people are expecting it to come down. Okay, but I think reality is, if you want a good quality, the testable parts, as he said, crashworthiness we can check. It is important, these technologies have been researched and invested into. So they are very expensive. They are going to remain expensive that way. But there is something wonderful happening. With the FDM technology and other technologies losing the patents, lot of startups have come, they are able to make it. It is available in the domain, free domain, open source. They are doing, I think they are doing a wonderful job to promote what we are doing at a very big level. Why I am saying this is, dil mange more bolte na. So when you start doing, designers, when they are making the ABCs of the, basically you have a part where you make and see, you have a dialogue with it. The idea comes out as a part and you have a dialogue. And with that dialogue you are able to now again get another perspective. So design, all of us know, it's an iterative function. So these small 3D printers, what you see as inexpensive, could actually help you do it better because the 3D brainstorming is most effective than what you write on page and you circulate and things like that, because you are able to reflect on your own what you have created. So I think the lot of fun will be there with the low cost, those machines which are playmates for you to Idea Foundry. But when you really want to bring something to market, you want to check it, it has to be from a production machine. And they're quite expensive. They're becoming smarter. There is a lot of new materials coming. So I think those two that keep on becoming finer and finer there. The approach is to have 1 micron accuracy at 0 micron. It is like there is no change from what you can make from conventional machining to rapid prototyping. So today we print at 15 microns to 150 microns, So I think that is going to change. But the fact of the matter is the low cost, probably it will take some more time for designers. But I think it's already there. It is going to take time. The divide will remain because the research which keep going, that's what my.
Just to answer your question, like just to culminate on this, it's very interesting that the way you do design thinking and work, you've got less risk now. You actually 3D parts as a mock-up parts, then you can quickly change it, make another 3D part, get it approved, and then go for prototyping with another 3D part. So these are the challenges now is that the times is helping you quickly conceive products much faster than before, and also more robust and more sure about what you're producing. Those are the two advantages. Some question here?
Just one quick thing to that is, apart from rapid prototyping, a lot of processes are actually shrinking the amortization of investment. And so it's going to move to the whole idea of customization and personalization a lot more.
Which also you talked about.
And that's something that will change the way you think of manufacturing itself.
There's some questions.
I have a question. Will in future will the designers and the designs push for innovating the materials that will be like to be used by the designers? Is the first question. The second question is whether design is getting evolved as the digital age is getting evolved, and lot of interface is happening through the softwares, navigations and everything. Is the design getting evolved in that direction, or it is still more or less and by and large in 3D physical geometry like things?
I can say design is getting democratized, as they say. The power of design is coming to end user. When we say end user, he has more choices to make. It is like he himself designing, when he gets more choices. Designers are still required to design, but they offer certain freedom to end user to choose from. That is very important. And the technologies are helping product proximity factor, like radios of earlier days used to be a box far away. Those things are coming closer and closer to your body. So much so that you are able to, many gadgets you wear today, So so much so UK researchers have forecasted in 200 years, we have people who will have part human, part machine, cyborgs, which are going to be a future by choice they can have. They can say even one can become immortal because only some body systems fail, not all of them die. So keeping some vital organs running, some which will anyway, for example, legs which may I will have a knee, replacement surgery, So these things are going to become the order of the day, and many sensor-driven systems will come. There is no need for you to say.
My question was whether the designers will push and drive
yes
for the researchers' innovation for getting new materials.
I think it is an interplay.
Okay.
You want to
after that.
Innovation happens at different level. I want to quote by an example. This is not done by us, but this is done by a Taiwan supplier in India. And the biggest challenge for automotive design is to create LHD and RHD variants in a single platform. Creating a left-hand drive car and a right-hand drive car without too much of investments, because the entire console shifts from here to here. So, and everything reverses, right, because the indicator, all these things reverse. One of the challenges which people have seen is, especially the central area, you have textured dashboard. All the dashboards are textured in car, right? I'm talking about materials, right? One of the challenges that was given to the supplier was, I will not take the name for official reasons, was to, typically dashboards are in brown, black, textured, matte, all kinds of shapes and colors. We wanted illumination coming through it. Now, the color is black. You are expecting an illumination coming through it. And today I am telling you, as designers, people have pushed the materials to a level where you can illuminate the interior of the car, which includes the soft headliner, the hard parts on the side, and also the dashboard with mood lighting, and also you can have blinkers coming through, all your signages and warnings coming through. It completely changes the interior the way you look at. These technologies are demonstrated. Designers are actually pushing the limits of plastics too. And it has to adhere to safety regulations, it has to meet head impact, it has to, airbags have to deploy, all of these things do have to happen. So I clearly feel that designers are pushing the limits on materials, especially on plastics.
Because if you to come up with innovation.
I think I would like to add here, if you don't mind, there is a technology push and designer pull, both will happen. It is an interplay, because if Akio Morita did not demanded a small motor for his engineers to make, that Walkman would not have happened. So their designer is asking for that. But new materials, adaptation of shape memory alloys, for example, in the designing, is something what material guys are doing. So I think it is a interplay. Both will happen.
Satish, you was a point?
Yeah, to answer your question, I think as a company we are already having a lot of dialogues with material manufacturers. So I'm talking of pure raw materials here. So it could be just the granules of, for example, it's polypropylene. People know it as polypropylene, but within polypropylene there are a lot of grades.
Multiple grades, yes.
Multiple grades. None of the global supplier could actually fulfill our need. We actually ended up working with that organization. We had given a wish list saying that this is our design brief. Your material has to perform this criteria. They actually took 2.5 years and gave us a new grade of polypropylene. You know, so, I mean, typically our MFI, which is mold flow index, is very, very low. So we wanted an injection molded part which is 800 millimeters by 680 by 12 mm thick. No idiot does a 12 mm polypropylene part, but our process demanded that. And only PP, polypropylene could work for our process because we're using titanium electrode, there's 4,400 volts going through it. So we actually challenged a global leader, and today we have one of the world's best product coming out of India. So we are challenging, we have a lot of dialogues with companies like 3M, specific adhesives, conductive adhesives, whether it's for heat, thermal as well as electrical. If I'm designing a sensor which is 4 mm by 3 mm and 50 mm micron, it has to be conductive adhesive. So we're having a lot of dialogues with them, and they come up with solutions for us. I mean, they realize that for them to grow also they require designers' help. I think it's more of a symbiotic effect today.
One more question here.
Second question.
No, we'll take the
design.
The second question is answered already. No, what is it?
The second question, which a lot of interface happening with the electronics and the tabs and the controls. Is there what is happening in design to make it more and more user friendly, navigation friendly, and many other like the how much part is getting, or it is still more by and large remaining on the physical shape, size, and other things?
You like to answer.
Can you hear me? Or Great. So I think there's a lot of work happening in this area, kind of. I think a couple of things that we are getting used to as individuals is that if you think about watching cricket, for instance, you are looking at scores, you are looking at a bunch of things, and you're analyzing it actually. You're probably looking at much more data today, even in a consumer context, than you ever were, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago. And this is everyday day-to-day life. I think of my son looks at data and he kind of analyzes cricket scores very well. Because it's been fed to us as such. If we look at Facebook, for instance, it knows more about you, maybe, kind of thing. Now, if we combine the power of personalization, if we combine the power of data, there's a lot of enormous power out there to personalize your devices, to sort of power what you see. I think it's moving more and more rapidly towards that. One is the interface or the aggregation of data, where a lot of power lies in terms of what I know about you. Do you like a certain temperature? Nest is probably a good example. The thermostat which learns from you, it learns more and more. But in the same way, it's almost like a consumer app, actually, if you think of it. It's not just a consumer physical product, it's a consumer app. It adapts to you, it understands you, it knows you, it behaves for you, kind of. Tomorrow that again gets connected with some other devices in your house. It can get connected to the washing machine or to the fridge or whatever it might be, kind of thing. And that probably gives you a wider interface into your life. You can control it much better. So I think a lot of work is being done in this area. There is a bunch of, I think part of the issue currently here is the interfaces between devices. That's probably still nascent. And that probably there's a lot of work going on. A lot of people, there are no industry standards per se. Like if you think about 25 years ago when Steve Jobs and Adobe launched the PostScript printer, the printer was Apple, but the software was Adobe. And that helped one set of commands being understood and printed out. This is almost that era being reinvented, just that devices are different, your interfaces are different, kind of, in this case, kind of. So I think a lot of work going on there, and you will see lot and lot more devices. And probably coming to a point where there is no interface required, actually. I think this is the other part which is probably going to be a very important thing, is about no interfaces. Why do you need an interface? Why, if I go, like if I go near a car or very close, or I'm going towards the boot, there is some sort of a sensor which understands that maybe this guy is coming to put things in and the boot opens. And maybe there are the keys there. So I think it's like the best interface is no interface actually. We don't want a world where there are glass screens and everything is touch and go kind of thing. I think that's probably where it will evolve towards kind of increasingly.
Good afternoon. I represent an industrial product company called ThyssenKrupp. ThyssenKrupp. We are into industrial products, and my question is specifically directed to Mr. Gokhale. We talk about creating a ecosystem and co-creating people who are stakeholders in design, and specifically in industrial domain. Now, how to go about as a strategy where legacy exists and you need to have a breakthrough, and then develop people who will be thinking futuristic as far as an industrial product company is concerned.
Yeah, so ThyssenKrupp is your elevator group, or?
We are an industrial solutions predominant.
Sugar industry.
We are part of the group.
See, I think the biggest challenge with a company which has a legacy, the biggest challenge is your top management has to have that risk-taking ability, and basically you have to say, okay, let's try and do it. You know, normally in a board meeting it happens, no, this will not work. There have been big companies like ThyssenKrupp where we work, we've saying that, okay, let's try it. So I think what is missing at times in most of the companies is that risk-taking ability. You have funds, but not the ability to take a risk. You know, industries, or I would say people, should not be scared of failures. Failures actually teach you something faster. And there can be, I mean, there could be wonders in a product company like ThyssenKrupp.
And I would also like to ask the panelists that what kind of recommendations you will give for people development as far as this design aspect is concerned.
So you, faculty.
I will add to what Satish was saying and add something very important. I think this is a little bit of secret I would like to share for all the designers, the youngsters, and also the senior designers. So yeah, the most important point of approaching any problem is, as you said, you are coming from a large legacy of previous experiences whether your senior leadership is very confident that it doesn't work. And when you approach with a new idea, they will just outrightly put it out saying it won't work. So the right way of doing it is not directly going with an idea. Do a little bit of groundwork, go down to the shop floor, sit with the people who can do it, cajole them, help them out, try to get a small prototype or a sample done, and very importantly, when you show that sample to your boss, don't tell it is your idea. You say that this was done by that, and he says it is possible. So when the boss asks him, is it possible? He would say yes. Because that is the first point of rejection that you have. You have a good idea, and there's nothing to lose. You will gain a lot of respect in the community and also the workplace by respecting your fellow employees. They will really love you for that because it's a great idea which is coming from the shop floor.
From here, it's like the multi-level user. Even the shop floor guy is your user because you're designing a product.
And he will ensure that you get it to that spec next time you have to make that part. You don't have to explain anybody after that. He will do it for you.
Mike, you like to address a little bit of that?
I think, like I said, you should look at people who have the ability to overlap with somebody else in terms of connecting on a particular expertise or domain. So if you're a good engineer, you should have design sensibilities. So you bring design sensibilities into engineering. If you're a good, say, a marketer, you should be able to bring good engineering sensibilities so you understand. So the moment you create these overlaps is when you actually create an organization that speaks without having that to be forced into it, and hopefully that kind of builds up into a culture of interactions that become very fruitful in the long run from a process perspective.
Yeah, just to add one more thing on the earlier question about legacy, we were approached by a company which manufactures cement manufacturing equipment. but the design brief is the hopper has to be stainless steel. Why? You know, there's just no reason. Why? Because somebody else has been, there's a legacy that all hoppers have to be stainless steel. It just didn't make sense. So finally we did something which is radically different for them.
In fact, just to address this legacy issue, very interestingly, you know, we're very close to Godrej, and whenever I made Jamshed, always in IIT Chicago. You know, we are just close by. I'm in Powai and they're in Vikhroli, but we always catch up meeting in conferences abroad. And I kept telling him that we need to do something about this issue of motivating everybody in the shop floor in design thinking. So, like, you know, then it's a long journey. We kept on making presentations and keep going to their factories. And today, you know, lovely that we had Navroz here in the morning on the panel discussion. And he himself studied design and came. It was so much more easy. But what we did was, we had something called, we pick up the best engineers, marketing people, and product planning people from Godrej, and did a 8-week program for them, where we made them do paper mock-ups, for example. They would always try to make real mock-ups. I said, no, when you make it in paper, you can be more creative. So, you know, we went one by one step. Every week, and now when Navroz is coming to picture, and the 250 people working in to make new products, we have a whole battery of 180 people, because we did 5 programs we did for them. 180 people within the company, the best engineers, the best marketing people, now like supporting design like mad. So they're coming up with new products. See, it's a tough journey, but we have to take it up. We have to motivate people. We have to make them understand the design journey so that they can be the design supporters. So they also work in the design thinking, you know, tools. For example, if you have to make a sheet metal box, you fold in paper and check whether it's possible. They never did it before. They'd always go to the shop floor and make it in metal. And they would always fail because it's so tough to create and innovate when you're doing it in real material. But when you do it in paper, you can do a lot of things. You can tear very easily, you can fold very easily. So simple tools that taught. So I think we have a very large task, academic, you know, organizations like Pearl, and SISTI, and all the other NID. We need to really also look at training of design thinking tools to most of the engineers and companies where the legacies are very big and it's very difficult to move them and change them.
I think the heads of industry, they are interested in business as a, you know, the numbers and those things. They are the first people to be taught a good design is good business, you know. And what I did in Crompton Greaves was just that. The topic was meet, and good design was good business, and invited all the star designers on, you know, from different industry. They came and talked to them. The whole people in the act of design, they're not designers, but they all were made to go through the thing. So it is one way of reaching out to management. I think it is a responsibility of design community
to take care
collectively to ensure that top management respect design, because it is a good design is good business.
So we'll take one last question. Are there?
Instrumental, you know, for putting India on a global IT map. We also see a small start of that trend, not in engineering but in design area. So do you think, you know, in years to come, India will be on a world map for excellent designs, and rather than saying make in India or made in India, but design in India? Would that happen? And what are the quality issues which you see need to be taken care by organizations and also by academia?
In fact, that's a very challenging question. We have been working very hard because I represent the Ministry of Human Resource Development, and they're the ones who do these colleges. So we went to all IITs and said, at least to begin with, let us start design schools. And then further, there's so much need for design. Today morning, we had the Pearl Academy, we started talking about 25% of the students feel that they like to do design, which is really phenomenal. So from that point of view, the challenges are phenomenal. But I feel that we have a very large battery of industrial designers trained at NID, IDC and other design schools who can become mentors for these large projects which will come up all over the country. So I think, like I will open it up to the panel to address this very, very important last question. But I strongly feel that we have to go the open design school way. Like we have a large project with MHRD where we're saying that a lot of like cooking classes you have online and you can get to know, and then you have to try it yourself, keep watching on the YouTube. I think we need to start, this online, sort of design where very good case studies are showcased upstairs, and then people are trying the designs on their own, learning on their own, and then very clearly design just cannot happen without mentoring. So you have mentoring support which is live, whereas you have online support which is, so that way we can reach millions within the country. So that is one route, but I'll open it up to my colleagues here.
I think there's one bit on if children understand design at an early stage in a very primitive manner, that itself will transform them as consumers. And I think it's consumers who need to believe what design can do, because they have this holistic, abstract understanding of design, and they don't distill it down to that this this product is designed to cost, and it's because of a designer and an engineer who worked at the back. They would probably wrap it on aesthetics more than anything else. But the moment the end consumer actually gets a sense of what contributes to design, that's when you'll be able to see a big transition of what the whole movement of design in India. And the other is to get design education to non-designers. I think that's a big part of, to basically get sensibilities of design in every other profession. And I think that will open up this whole, what Satish was saying, cross-pollination of ideas naturally in some way at some point.
I think a lot of movements like making anything, maker spaces, maker asylum, or giving freedom to people to toy with things, and give access at a very nominal cost to very good tools. And as Professor said, if mentors are there available, I think it can help create a wonderful ecosystem for the design appreciation, and then its adoption. And I think design should become walk of life. It's a way of life. It is going to define our culture. Yeah.
And that's very interestingly put, actually. So when I was getting hired for my Adobe job, the guy who was American, he said, how can designers ever live in this country? When you look around the roads, you look around everything is terrible. There is no design sensibility anywhere. And this was like, yes and no, kind of. We know they're designers and we know it's shocking, and that's true. Having said that, he did hire me eventually, so that was another story. But then if I go back, 98, 99, I went to UK. I was working in the UK as a designer. And probably there were a couple of my colleagues who were from Brazil or from some parts of Europe, like even the less developed parts of Europe, like Portugal or Spain kind of thing. But you would hardly meet another Indian designer. I think you would, out of 100 Indians that you would meet, there was a bunch of shopkeepers, there would be lots of software engineers, lots of doctors, especially in the UK, and maybe like 1 in 100 would be a designer, some design students, of course, kind of thing. Today the equation has changed, notwithstanding this comment about how can you find designers here. The week before I was in the Bay Area and I met this sort of classmate of mine, and we kind of recounted that there must at least be 150 designers in the Bay Area pretty much working for all the software companies. So if I'm seeing this trend of Indian designers moving to the US West Coast, when I talk about Flipkart there, people seem to know it as much as a person out here, which was a bit strange kind of thing. I'm not sure whether that's a trend again in Europe. Probably Europe is going through its own depression and a number of cycles like that. So it may not be that always. US probably being large, being very big, and for those of you who know Photoshop and Sitaram Narayanan, he keeps telling me, oh, there's always place to absorb kind of people here in the US, so it's a different story. But it's changing. I think the notion is changing. I think at least in user experience design, where it's allied or contiguous to the field of software design, there's a greater acceptance of Indians as designers. Now, in other areas like luxury goods and all of that, I think that's probably less, and maybe Michael can talk more about that. But again, these are kind of areas which is probably not our traditional strength, or at least not stereotypical strengths as I would say kind of thing. But yeah, it's changing, and hopefully we can change our environments and show to the world that there is a design sense in all of us kind of in a bigger way kind of thing.
I think we're really running out of time. It's already 10 minutes overshot. So thank you very much. This panel was very exciting. I'll thank all the panel members for being so critical in their observations, and the audience for shooting some very, very interesting questions. Most of the proceedings are available online, so I think we should share and sort of develop this think further. And this last question especially was very dear to me from point of view of how we could scale up, because that's the most critical part. And I would sort of invite all the design fraternity, all the alumni who are designers to sort of help and support this endeavor of taking the design education to much, much more larger heights. Thank you very much.